Hey everyone, my name is Tara. I really want to push something towards people's attention, and I hope that this becomes a very strong message for future rallies. When it comes to CPP, and many events that I've attended, no matter if they're some protest rally thing or an NDP event based on CPP, there's one thing that I've noticed, and I've started making the MLAs, especially the NDP, to actually talk about it. Now, you're going to probably think I'm half cocked or whatever, but I've looked into this many times. When it comes to APP, there is no backdrop or replacement for those that are on cppd. Now, just bear with me. I'm a recipient of cppd. Just like CPP, you have to literally pay into it. The only difference with CPPD is that you can have it at any time of your life as long as you have a disability. But for that, you have to go through all the tests and whatever else a doctor or medical professional has to put you through in order to say, yeah, you might have dyslexia, yeah, you might have ADHD, yeah, you might have whatever. So keep that in mind. Because so far at rallies, it's nothing but CPP. Well, in order for me to get my CPPD, I had to be disabled. I had to have worked for X amount of years before I got it. Now, that said, it makes me think how people can just choose one thing without realizing that what APP will do to those that are on CPP or that are paying into CPP, what will happen to them will greatly affect people like me, especially those that don't get any other provincial supports like aish because of whatever income that comes into your house. My income in this house, between me and my husband, is well over the cutoff for aish. But you have to also look at the cost of living and how it's gone up. Me and my husband have had to move twice due to rental increase in the last, I guess, year and a half, 2 years. That said, this ought to get your marbles going in your brain to make you think that if this APP affects you, what's it going to do to someone like me? Now, we also have to keep in mind that if you do get CPPD and you're on aish, aish takes dollar for dollar of your CPPD. And if you're new to CPPD, when you apply for it, from the time you apply to the time you get accepted, there is a little thing called a back pay. Excuse me, my cat is being a pain in the butt. That back pay, aish takes all of it. How I know this is because that's what happened to me. When I got onto aish a second time, my husband at the time wasn't making enough money to support both of us. But as our finances got better, the less I made on aish. And the less I made on aish, the less I had to bring in to help my husband and I financially. Now, understand and keep this in mind. Literally, keep this in mind. On top of getting knocked back on aish for 3 years when I was on it, in my current marriage, I also had to put up with the bullying, the degrading aspects of how aish workers treat you. I also have, I can also get my CPPD, or my PDD, which is Persons with Development Disability. It's a program that the government put out so that people like me who can get it can also access programs that are meant to help people with disabilities. Now, there's a whole gong show on that I could probably spew about, but I won't this time. What I'm on about is about CPP and how systems have literally failed us for a very long time. As a matter of fact, systems for me and those like me, granted, we have access to PDD and we can get those community funds to help us get programs, but those programs are catered to those with more severe attributes that need care. People like me who get it, those companies love to tell us to dumb ourselves down to match the plethora that they cater to. Again, humiliating, degrading. I can't use my PDD with the way systems are done now. I've about given up on all programs. Either they don't have enough staff to help those that are a little bit more, I don't even know the right words, a little bit more able to do things than, say, the ones that they currently pander to. I'm not trying to be rude to the mothers with kids with severe disabilities that might be adults going to these programs and getting PDD. I'm just stating a fact of what I've gone through. And if you have neurodiversities like I do, a lot of programs are geared towards children under the age of 18. So not only are you stuck with a child that might have an IQ level of 70 that is able to get PDD and the funding necessary to go into those kind of programs, but they're also a child that will never be on their own as adults. When you come to someone like me who has PDD, you get told that you have to dumb yourself down and become even more humiliated. Then you also have to look at the other circumstance. In order to get PDD, like I said, you need to be under 70 IQ in order to get it, in order to qualify for any of the programming that might be available to your child or adult child. Keep that in mind. So if you're above 70 IQ, you're basically screwed. Any support for autism, education, doesn't matter. You have to be under 30, interested in technology, and basically it's very demeaning. I mean, if I wanted support from educational things that cater to autistic adults, I have to be under 30. I'm pushing 50. And by the time I could get that education, I was over the threshold for which CanTech offers on their brochures online. Look it up. I've seen it. In their brochure, it literally says black and white. People under 30 years old diagnosed with autism can apply for this. Well, I was 36 by the time I got diagnosed. It gives you an idea how women are treated in our medical system if they have a diagnosis of a disability. And anything autism, well, again, you have to be a child or severe needs in order to get any support. So moms, with kids like me, can I ask you one thing? When the time comes when you are too old to help your child, where are they going to be? How are they going to support themselves when jobs call them a liability to their face, whether they're educated or not? And trust me, I have friends with autism, ADHD, and otherwise that need supports in certain parts of their life. And I'll admit, I need support too. Where are those kids going to be if they're above 70 IQ and can't access those supports? Where are they going to be long after you get too old to be able to take care of them, to fight for them, to help them? And systems fail both of you. Where are you going to be? Where's your kid going to be long after you're gone and their education serves them no purpose because employers don't hire them? I've got one too many friends with autism, ADHD, bipolar, whatever, including myself, where employers of different job types, even McDonald's, have called people like me a liability anytime they've ever gone to an interview. And if they do get hired, guess what? They get bullied until they either quit or get laid off, only to be told a freaking lie. A freaking lie of we had to save money. Meanwhile, they hire two average folk without disabilities to do the very same job your child was probably hired to do and only took one. How does that save companies money? But hey, some of you think it's easy to get on aish, right? No. You should see the tests that a person has to go through, the hoops and the bullshit. Trust me, the tests aren't fun. And when you do get aish, they'll treat you like you're an inept imbecile. I should know, when Tony Flores was in charge for Alberta disability advocate issues, I took one of his people to one of my meetings with PDD. The worker would rather talk to the secretary than to me. I'm my own guardian. But hey, let's talk to the other person because he's neurotypical, right? This person doesn't know what the fuck they want because they are disabled. They're stupid. They're dumb. Isn't that the going plethora of bullshit, stereotypical crap that people love to pander? Yeah, I know. I'm sick of it. This is how our systems treat people like me. Not to mention going out there in the real world, finding you don't look autistic at restaurants. Often. No, you don't grow out of freaking meltdowns. Sorry to say, but your kid, if he or she works, will be paying just like you do into CPP. But there's one thing that they are qualified for if they work long enough and pay into CPP. They will work long enough to get into CPPD. If APP goes through, it'll become like Quebec. Yeah, it's a good thing they have constituencies for disabled people when it comes to their provincial retirement. The other side of that was that how Quebec and Canada did it, they did it in tandem. When CPP was invented, so was their CPP, better known as QPP. They also put on contingencies for disabled, kind of like CPPD. I don't see that happening in APP. And if APP goes through, guess what? It's not going to be a fucking choice for anybody. Because CPP will not be available in Alberta. Someone like me, who does not qualify for aish, cannot live without the $700 or $800 that I already get from CPPD. That is going to put a huge hole in my husband's and my budget. We will stand to lose just about everything we worked hard for. How much more do I have to lose? I don't want to be fully dependent on my husband. I want to be his wife. I want to be his friend. I want to be his equal. But how can I do that? Every time I turn around and see government going after something that I need. Government has been doing this ever since I came to Alberta. It was in the early 2000s, mid 90s to early 2000s that Klein destroyed the very program I needed. Individualized programs for people with disabilities. Anyone who had a disability that was diagnosed could get onto PDD. When I came here, those programs were popping up in the early 90s because asylums were getting shut down. There's only one asylum still running, and I think that's out of Michener. Look it up. I did. When it comes to CPPD, sometimes that's the only thing that you have left. What I make in what I do for work and my CPPD is not enough to support my husband and I if he should get sick. It's not even enough to support me if I was to be left to my own demise. Employers don't hire disabled people in Alberta. There is no protection for people in Alberta for disabled people, no matter if you're a senior or me. Let that sink in. APP will cut you off from your cppd and your CPP and any other federal funded program. APP does not have a backdrop or contingency in any given way within the plan to support people with disabilities. And if you lived in Quebec, CPPD or CPP is not a choice. It is not available in Quebec. Trust me on this. I've looked that up too. You will not have a choice. It is not a choice. I say no to APP for the reasons that not only has it failed teachers' pensions when they took it from them, but it's going to fail all of us. The disabled community have had enough. What you take for granted every day to live as a normal human being, to have access to food, a home, and a job. We only wish to have. And for those of you that think that we're lazy by accepting jobs on like Kijiji that are cash, I'm going to say this once. For some of us, that's all you can get because jobs don't hire. How would you like it for 20 years? You get called a liability to your face by employers. Sure, it's illegal to say it's your disability as to why they won't hire you. But being called a liability is the same fucking thing. And if someone like me comes along and rakes your lawn just so that they can feed their fucking kid, instead of calling them lazy, give them the fucking job. God knows you ain't gonna fucking do it. You want someone like me to come and clean your dog shit? Yeah, that puts food on our table because employers don't fucking hire us. We're not lazy. For some of us, doing cash jobs is the only thing they can do. I did it because $1,600 is not enough, especially when rents are basically that of an aish check. And if I didn't have my husband's income, my $700 or $800 on CPPD, and the little amount of money that I make with whatever job I've got currently, yeah, I'd be living out of my car if I still had it. And the way systems are written, I wouldn't know how to access them because I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't know where to start. When I came to Alberta, programs like I mentioned, the individualized programs, that was part of their job, was to help you through the rigmarole. This includes federal funding for accessing CPPD. This includes PDD resources. This includes education, college. I've got a floral sales certificate that says I can design floral arrangements like nobody's business. I've tried to get jobs with it. Nope. Talk about your wasted certificate. I've got my janitorial cleaning certificate. For 20 years, I cleaned people's homes. I try and get a cleaning job in an average traditional job. Nope. I'm called a liability. Yeah, okay. So you tell me how someone like me can get a traditional job without being called a liability. Am I supposed to pretend to be normal? I'm sorry, I already had a meltdown so severe that I can't do it anymore. And the way I am as a human, I would probably be written up with the way I communicate anyway. So, yeah. It's not fun having a disability, and I don't wish it upon anyone. But for those of you that are in this group that are employers, instead of calling someone like me a liability, try and think of ways on how you can make it become an ability that would benefit you and your place of work. Yes, there are things that I can't do, that I might need accommodation for some things. But what I can do outweighs what I can't do. And like any person with a disability, all you needn't do is ask what we need for accommodation. I bet you anything we could rattle off a goddamn list. It's not that hard. For those of you that saw me in Calgary and asked my friend to rub my back because I was getting anxious, you'd have to be very close to be able to do that to me. But that's one of many ways I calm down. We don't ask for accommodation for shits and giggles. We ask for accommodation because we need it. And when it comes to CPPD, if APP goes through, how many of us are going to be lining up at maids' doors because they can't get the help they need or get enough funding to support themselves? How many of us, if maid doesn't take us, how many of us are going to be found in the morgue? And family members being called. Alberta is the only province I know that doesn't have protections for disabled. Alberta is the only province that I know that landlords and employers can treat people with disabilities like shit. Alberta is the only province I know that makes ableism a normal thing, as far as I know. Maybe it's in other provinces, but not so much in your face. Because all I've seen about Alberta is that Alberta is beautiful on the outside. But if you dig hard enough and deep enough, yeah, there's a few pockets where there's a few nice people. But overall, all I see is ugly. The only reason why I stay here is because my husband has to work here. Otherwise, I'd be gone. The more Alberta changes to the point where supports for people with disabilities is degraded, the more I think Alberta is becoming a death sentence for anyone with a disability. How many of you are going to let this happen? How many of you are going to allow it to happen? Because I'm pushing 50. I could be your kid. Think about that one. Moms with 10-year-old little babies. One day, if they have autism or any other form of disability, sorry to say, Alberta has no future for us. Alberta has no place for us. Alberta has no room for us. And this is all I see. Alberta can do so much better. It did once. How did we end up where we are?